Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Every Rocky Ever, a Colorado Rockies podcast dedicated to celebrating players from Rockies history. I am your host, Skylar Timmons, and joined always here is my older brother, Dustin, enjoying a snow day.
Woohoo!
Woo! It's that time of the year here in Colorado, and fun stuff. Always with the snow days. But we figured here around the holiday season, a pretty special one of the bigger names, and I think one of the more revered players in Rockies history, more beloved among fans in just terms of performance and everything, and probably the only Rocky that comes with his own signature special chant from the fans.
Too low.
Too low. That's right. We're going over Troy Tulowitzki, number 2, Rockies shortstop. I personally, Dustin, I would still say the Rockies' best shortstop at the moment. That could change with the current shortstop on the team. But to me, I think Troy Tulowitzki is still when I think of Rocky shortstop, I still think of Troy Tulowitzki. And just overall, a player I'm excited to talk about because he was a special one.
He was, the Rockies' history of shortstops it wasn't really stacked. Tulo, kind of revolutionized the shortstop position for the Rockies. From him, then we got, Trevor Story. Now we've got Ezekiel Tovar. But Tulo was the complete package. In his real rookie season, all of a sudden being considered one of the best in the game at the position. And if it wasn't for injuries, he would, if he would have stayed healthy and kept a healthy relationship, or the Rockies would have kept a healthy relationship with him, we're talking, first ballot All-Star or first ballot Hall of Famer is what I think.
Yeah, and that's probably going to be a running theme in this conversation. Is just he is just the epitome of what if, the ultimate player. When you look through Twitter, and there'll be those accounts like, "What's a player you wish you could go back and redo their career, get a redo on their career, or change in their career?" And who comes up every time from somebody? Somebody always mentions it's Troy Tulowitzki for the Colorado Rockies, of a phenomenal player when he was healthy, but there was just so many freak injuries that just kept nagging at him and just sapped, like you said, what could have been a Hall of Fame track career, and gone down as one of the greatest shortstops in baseball history. And unfortunately, he could have been a lifetime Rocky too. There's so many what ifs and things with him that we'll get into, but this is one that we're excited to talk about and get underway here, because he's still one of my personal favorite Rockies. He was, when you talk to guys growing up through the 90s, early 2000s, Tulowitzki then was my generation of Rockies fans. That was our shortstop that we grew up, the one you grow up emulating and wanting to be like, man, I want to be like Tulo. So this is a fun one. So we might as well get into the nitty gritty and talk all about it and his career. And Dustin, go ahead and hit us with that career numbers for Troy Tulowitzki.
Well, as we all remember him, number 2, although he did wear number 14 his rookie when he came and got his first cup of coffee with the big league club. But Troy Tulowitzki, shortstop, batted right-handed, had a cannon of a right arm, 6'3". We're talking shortstops. We're not talking, the old school, smaller dudes. Tulowitzki, the 6'3" monster at shortstop, from Santa Clara, California, drafted first round by the Rockies in 2005, Long Beach State, and it's California State University, Long Beach. And he ended up making his major league debut August 30th of 2006, and played that season, 2006, and then 2007, he completely just blew up the map and said, declared who he was and what he was going to do. Played for the Rockies from that 2006 season until 2015 when he was then traded unexpectedly to the Toronto Blue Jays. As a Colorado Rocky, he came in second in the Rookie of the Year voting, which he should have won. Was a five-time All-Star in 2010, 2011, 2013, 2014, 2015. Won 2 Gold Gloves, 2010, 2011. Should have won more. And he was a Silver Slugger in those 2 years as well. Several years received MVP votes and played in Toronto for 3 years, and then signed with the Yankees. Only made into 5 games and then ended up retiring in 2019. But
Yeah, so
10 years with the Rockies.
yeah, and he was one of those guys. We all thought he was going to be a lifetime Rocky. That I think that was part of his intention. He signed multiple big contract extensions. That one famously for that second big contract he signed, because he signed one, I think, right after 2007, a big 6-year contract extension, and then later signed another one same time as Cargo that would have taken them both until through that 2019-2020 season almost. But ultimately, looking down here, we'll talk more about these numbers, break him down in his ranks and everything, but we'll hit you with his Rockies numbers. In 10 years, 1,048 games, scored 660 runs, had a total of 1,165 hits, 224 doubles, 24 triples, 188 home runs, 657 RBIs, 55 stolen bases, way more than you think he probably would have had, including a 20 stolen base season in 2009. End up 713 strikeouts. You'd think with Tulo that would have been higher, but not too shabby compared to 435 walks. So dude just put the ball in play a lot. 299 average with the Rockies, 371 on base, 513 slugging, in total an 885 OPS, in total a 123 OPS plus, 2,001 total bases with the Colorado Rockies. And some extra ones, 47 hit by pitches, 43 sac flies, 48 intentional walks with the Rockies. But across the board, that's a pretty dang good career over 10 years in purple.
Yeah, and like we talked about, the Rockies had never had a power threat at shortstop.
I don't think really any team really had to his caliber that he brought.
No, you think of maybe A-Rod when
Mm-hmm.
with the Seattle Mariners. He was a big shortstop, but doesn't even compare to the defensive capability that Troy Tulowitzki had. The range, the arm, the Derek Jeter plays that were reserved for Derek Jeter was making them look routine.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was so smooth. And when in doubt, he would just pack it up and boom, whip the ball across the diamond. I think of how many double plays did Tulo turn in his Rockies. It was all the time. Get the ball into his hands, and you knew it was going to be safe.
Yeah, and I think that's the good place to start. Is he gets drafted, at as a dirtbag, and gets there. Only plays 126 minor league games before he gets called up to the big leagues, and we don't really see the Rockies really fast tracking any players like that anymore, especially position players. They kind of have to force their way. Ezekiel Tovar debuts 21 years old, but he was still had been in the organization for years as the international signing. Tulo, 126 games out of college, plays in the minors, and he's in the big leagues at 20 years old. No, just a super quick and immediately makes an impact when he wins the starting job in 2007, beating one of our little personal favorites, Clint Barmas, beats him, gets the spring training MVP for the Rockies, earns the starting job at shortstop, and Barmas kind of gets relegated to kind of a backup infielder, second baseman. He was never going to see shortstop again because Tulo took that and made it his own. And it's cool looking back at highlights from that 2007 season. One, Tulo's stance, his batting stance changed immensely by the end over the course of his career. But coming in at 2007 at 21 years old, it's cool to see 155 games in that rookie season. I think he led most rookies in things like doubles and hits. He had 177 hits, 33 doubles, 24 home runs, breaking a record that was held by Ernie Banks. I believe for in terms of home runs, 99 RBIs, the most I think RBIs by a rookie shortstop at that time. Not sure if it's been beaten moment, but some of those have been surpassed since then. But yeah, 130 strikeouts that season. But just overall, that 291 average, all kinds of the stuff, plus the defense, complete package, loses the Rookie of the Year voting to Ryan Braun by just 2 votes. 2 points is all that separated him, kept him from winning Rookie of the Year.
And that's what that 2007 season, everybody just turns a blind eye at what the Rockies did to finish out that 2007 season to make it to game 163 and then make it to the World Series. Everybody completely forgets about that because, oh, the Brewers are doing good things and Ryan Braun and they had maybe more exposure or whatever. So that's one that I was so mad when he did not win Rookie of the Year. That everything that he did, a 291 average, the RBI, the home runs, the defense. Speaking of his defense, in 2007, the 13th unassisted triple play in MLB history.
Mm-hmm. On my birthday, no doubt, in 2007. And it was a thing where he was setting records and was leading the league, not just rookies or anything, but defensively in 2007, his rookie season, had a better just defensive stats across the board, more chances than the eventual winner, Jimmy Rollins. Just across the board was better than everybody. His fielding percentage records, no, his rookie season, I think, was it his rookie season that Ezekiel Tovar just beat in terms of fielding percentage? That had stood as one of the best, not just in Rockies history, but baseball history for a rookie shortstop. That stood until just this past season, 2023, when it was beaten by Ezekiel Tovar. Oh, guess who he plays for? The Colorado Rockies. So he set this new standard of what a shortstop could be, specifically on the defensive end too. So I said it was usually like a quick little short guy that can speed around. And let's be honest, Derek Jeter isn't as good of a shortstop defensively as people think. Yeah, you got a bunch of gold gloves, but look at the metrics we have nowadays. He kind of pales in comparison. Where Tulo, it's not a Jeter throw. That thing's a Tulowitzki throw now because he earned that. Not because he needed to jump and make the throw, but because he simply could jump and make a throw like that. And those were bullets. Just zooming across the infield.
Yeah, and you had Todd Helton, the Gold Glover over there, that just loved it. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking of Tulowitzki, I just remember looking at his glove, his mitt, like, how is this guy making plays with this? It was like flopping around. It was like, holy cow, this guy is using, this loose little piece of leather. How does he snag the ball? How does it stay in his glove? I just remember how worn out it looked, but I think that mentality that Tulowitzki had, dirtbag mentality, in baseball terms, dirtbag means It's
Mhm.
not it's not the other way. That he was a grinder.
Yeah.
He would go 100 miles an hour no matter what. Defensively, offensively, I think in the way he lived his baseball career, uh, that that's what he was.
Mhm.
And the sad thing is, I don't think he was extraordinary with the Rockies, but it could have been even more if it wasn't for so many injuries.
Yeah. And that's something we can kinda transition to now. He has that wonderful rookie season in 2007, and then immediately the next year in 2008, the injuries started to that's when kind of the foreshadowing of injuries, the injury bug that would hit him. 155 games in 2007, that would be the career high in games played, where then he would struggle just to stay on the field a lot of the time. 101 games, he would reach 150 games only one more time, and that would be in 2009, but then would only reach 140 games one more time in 2011, and then had at least 120 games in 2010, 2013, and then 2015 split between the Rockies and the Blue Jays. So in total, he couldn't stay on the field, and it was he'd get hit with a wrist injury, fractured wrist, and then he a fractured rib type thing, or deals with a groin injury, or it's something wrong with his feet hurting him. So it's so many things that just kept popping up.
Yeah, and that was one of the frustrating things that and that's the bad thing about injuries is they're just things that happen. The body
Hmm.
wears down, and you could see, the Rockies were riding high. We got to the World Series 2007, but then 2008 he signs that 6-year, $31 million contract. But then it just kind of, okay, we got him back. We're good. Oh, there's another one. Uh, are we gonna get the bet? Oh, but and he's still in that short time, like in 2008, still has a 5 for 5 game.
Hmm.
You know, uh, still has when he's healthy, he's having multi-hit games. He's we're hoping okay, we're good to go, and then something else would happen. Um, but then we get he gets a little more healthy again, and in the 2009, uh, where we get another push to the playoffs. The then we get into the all-star caliber Troy Tulowitzki.
Hmm. Yeah, and quick thing that I wanted to touch on with his injuries, it's just sad and kind of heartbreaking that in 2019, that's how his career ends. Is he plays 5 games with the Yankees, a team he had idolized. Derek Jeter was his idol. Want it seemed like a perfect Tulo's gonna go, Jeter's gone. Yeah, they're gonna get Tulo, and he's gonna go play some shortstop for him. Oh no, he plays 5 games and hurts his an injury somewhere, and that ends his career. It's just a sad and tragic way to watch like this guy who was the best at his position, but just the baseball world just couldn't keep him healthy. His body just wouldn't. I just couldn't sustain the caliber of play that he wanted. And you could people could blame Coors Field and altitude and all that stuff, but like you said, there's just freak accidents. No, he dives for a ball, playing the game hard. No, going all out, sacrificing his body, and going after a play and comes up hurt. Just gets hit awkwardly or dives and I've torn my my groin, or I've hit a ball, got a base hit, comes up limp around first base because he's got a injury in his hip. Just unfortunate, and we're still always going to be left of what could have been with Troy Tulowitzki and the Rockies. And what could have been different? Maybe there could have been some more pushes to playoffs if he could have just played 140 to 150 games every season over the course of that contract. Maybe we don't trade him away because he's performing and we're going to continue to build a contender, but instead just couldn't keep him on the field enough, among other things. But But his
But
peak stuff, the peak stuff is that's the fun stuff.
so when we get into this era, the All-Star Tulowitzki era, that 2009 to 2011 and stuff, hitting on some of those big memories, is the Tulowitzki hitting for the cycle
Hmm.
in August of 2009. Um, Career highs, 7 RBI game, and he was the fifth Rocky to hit for the cycle. And one of the funny stats is he's only the second player in MLB history to hit for the cycle and record an unassisted triple play in his career.
Hmm.
You're like, wait, there's another guy that did that?
Hmm. Yeah. Then the cool thing that we see that transition in his offensive capabilities and just how he's set up in the box. Because that rookie season, he was a lot more hunched over, closed off, kind of a small, scrappy, hunched over. But as the years went on, he just got bigger and bigger in the box, just an imposing figure in the box. Like you'd look in, like, okay, this guy must be your first baseman or an outfielder. No, that dude's starting at shortstop, batting third or even cleanup in the lineup. And it's just an imposing figure in the box. Looking back at highlights, just you didn't want to pitch to this guy. I think he was a scary one to look at and pitch in.
Well, yeah, that's what I remember coming up, and it was kind of like the Dante Bichette closed out, like and I
Hmm.
remember in the video games the different batting styles, and remember that one, and that's the way the Tulowitzki, and then as he matured up the upright, and sadly, I think looking at his numbers, I want to see how many of his outs were those pop ups to the infield.
Hmm.
Okay, so for memories, that's one that I always remember, and how frustrated he would be when he would pop a ball up in the
Yeah.
infield.
Yeah. Let's see. See if I can find that here. There's some interesting stuff at least. I'd have to look on baseball reference or fan graphs. I can look that up, but we can keep talking here. But yeah, it's sitting in the box. He's just that big dude. And I remember, I was playing high school baseball around these years, 2010 or around 2011 or whatever, starting to play high school baseball. And I pride myself on hitting. And I think I'd like to copy your heroes, guys you see. And so I remember I'd go home and look up videos of Troy Tulowitzki hitting mechanics, hitting breakdown on YouTube. And I'm like, okay, how can I hit like Tulo? What's Tulo doing that I could do, to just help me batting? I wanted to be like him because when he was hot, especially there in 2009, 2010, dude was just a menace at the plate. Where I was watching some of those highlights, when he connects on one, immediately knows. It's just with authority and aggressive, just a violent swing, plows it, launches the bat out of his hands, and starts jogging to first. Like he could hit with authority, and it was fun to watch.
Yeah, and that's what you think of the Rockies, with a power threat, hitting the home runs, driving guys in, having that shortstop and batting third, batting fourth in there. And as we talked about, he was a threat on the base path, on the base paths, and a good hard ball player. And when we were looking at his big career moments, do you remember how much we were in awe in 2010, the month of September?
Hmm.
Holy cow! Tulowitzki in 2010 in September put up numbers that the majority of MLB players don't put up in an entire season.
Hmm.
He was absolutely unstoppable. The video games used to have MLB. I don't know. Does the show had? Did they ever have it where you would be put in these situations like the Sean Green game where we had 20 total bases or whatever, and hit 4 home runs, and like there were these video games where they'd put you in the situations like recreate this game or the output that they had. That would be one of those for Tulowitzki
Mm-hmm.
is get 15 home runs in a month, get 40 40 RBIs, 30 runs scored, 800 slugging. Only Babe Ruth had more home runs and RBIs in September in MLB history,
Mm-hmm.
and Troy Tulowitzki did it. In his fourth year in the majors.
Yeah. And you can go back and look at a purplerow.com article that I wrote back September 6th, 2023, talking about Tulo's September to Remember. And it was it was the thing. This was a 2010 season was a lost opportunity for the Rockies because it was really their really bad September that lost them a chance to make the postseason. But it's kind of an up and down, but they were getting there, getting close to it. And through their first 17 games that month, they won 13 of them. So they're in the hunt. And they were just 7 games back in the division, 69 and 62. And they had a 10-game winning streak in there. So eventually putting them just back 1 game back in the division. And part of this was because of Tulo just going off. He had missed June and July because of one of those wrist injuries. But in the month of August, he came back, was hitting 351, 417, 521, had 3 home runs and 16 RBIs with a 138 weighted runs created plus, according to Fangraphs, in August when he came back. So it was a good place to start. And then September comes and things just take off. Utilizing the power of the mullet, which one of my favorite things. 2010, he comes out, he's using the mullet. There's an old picture of him in his youth with a mullet. Decides to go back to it. It's just a dirty, like rat tail mullet thing. It works. There is power on it. Dustin and I can attest to that. I had a mullet my junior year of high school, and best season of my little career. But he went hitless on September 1st, and then he would fail to tally a hit in just 10 other games that month. He had 1 hit in 20 of the final 30 games of the season, had 1 2-hit game, had 5 3-hit games, and 2 4-hit games, which in total was 37 hits for the month of September. Of those 37 hits, 23 of them went for extra bases across 6 doubles, 2 triples, and 15 home runs. He had 4 games in which he hit 2 home runs, including an incredible performance on September 15th when he went 3 for 5 and hit not 1, but 2 3-run home runs and drive in 7 runs against the Padres in a 9-6 victory. It's like it wasn't just blowout games that he's performed. No, these are crucial, critical hits coming in the clutch. And folks at Blake Street Banner, there's actually a YouTube video where they compiled all home runs from his September in 2010. Drove in 40 runs, and that mark still remains the highest for any particularly September in baseball history since Babe Ruth drove in 43 back in September 1927. So he'd done something that hadn't been done since Babe Ruth. And he won National League Player of the Month for his efforts. But just a scorching month. Unfortunately, the Rockies then would just kind of falter down the stretch. They'd lose 13 of their final 14 games, despite his efforts. Kind of cooled off a little bit, but he was still doing some great things. But fortunately, it wasn't enough. But man, what a magical month that was.
We haven't had very many Rockies players produce that kind of offensive power since.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a long time since we've talked about somebody just going on an absolute tear like that.
Yeah, as that dominant of a role, because there's been guys that have had a good month. Like they have like 5 or 6 home runs. But Tulowitzki compiled a season's worth of stuff. He basically compiled what Ezekiel Tovar's totals over the course of a whole season, kind of, but he did it all in 1 month. And
Yeah.
it's just crazy to think. And looking at comments too about that move, people think like they remember it was must see TV, where it seemed like every time they'd flip on the TV to watch the Rockies games, oh, there's Tulo hitting a home run, doing something, coming up big in those situations. And it was just that testament of when he was healthy on the field, he could be the best player in baseball. Which you can't say a lot about a lot of Rockies in history. But you could say that about Tulo a lot of the time.
Yeah, and going forward, then we get into the 2000, 2012, 2015. The Rockies had traded Aldo Jimenez away. I don't know if you remember that game where Ubaldo pegs him,
Mhm.
bench is clear, and they almost go at it, and we're like, what is going on here? We kind of the whole Ubaldo thing was a problem, and that was kind of gave us a heads up. In a few years, it's going to happen to him too.
Yeah.
And he goes through 2012 limited action, had some good stats in those games that he played, and then he comes back 2013 and all-star with Carlos Gonzalez, Michael Kadire, all in the starting lineup. He bats 312, has 25 homers, 82 RBI, 126 games, which we would have liked more, but still doing good. Starts out 2014 in April, just on fire.
Mm-hmm.
364, 7 homers, 9 doubles, 22 RBIs, player of the month. Gets his 1,000th career hit against the Mets. And then the left hip injury and the labral repair surgery, and he was done
Mm-hmm.
for that season.
Yeah.
But he still in the 91 games batted 340, 21 homers, 58 RBI.
Yeah. If he had stayed healthy,
Jeez.
top 3 finish MVP that year, probably.
Oh yeah.
Because I think it was it that 2014? Yeah, he was the captain for the National League Home Run Derby team. That was when they would select their teams. They had the captains to select, and he selects Justin Morneau to join the team because they were going back to Minnesota. And so he brings his teammate Justin Morneau along just as because Morneau didn't get the final vote, which that was a fun day on Twitter on that campaign. But he doesn't get through, doesn't get in, but Tulo brings them along. And I think we'll talk on that a little bit here, but I'll get back to that thought. But on the field, just when he's healthy, so good, but just so much lost time. But yeah, I was seeing that 2013, 2014 makings of, okay, he's going to be a great. If we can get 130 games a year, I think we'd take that. If we just limit his injuries, get 120 to 130 games, okay, this is going to work. He'll throw out 20 home runs, hit close to 300. That'll play. That'll play. Cargo's there in the lineup with him, which talk about a 1-2 punch in that lineup. I think that's one of my favorite lineups too, growing up. Either the Cargo Tulo combo or Cargo Tulo, either or in whichever spot. One of the more dangerous punches in a lineup during that era of baseball.
And a big contrast in personalities.
Yeah.
With Tulo, it was all business.
Mm-hmm.
That intensity. And then you have Cargo, he's up there, he's a gamer and he's intense, but with a smile.
Mm-hmm.
But with Tulo, it's all business.
Mm-hmm. But he plays to that, and then eventually, I guess this is an era because I actually wasn't around or involved in 2015. I was in Oregon for 2 years, and so I was kind of a apart from the baseball world, I remember seeing an email or somebody messaged me, or I just saw a news alert somewhere talking about Troy Tulowitzki getting traded to the Toronto Blue Jays. And I was like, wow, really? Like that, I guess that works out because he's always injured. And this is at the time, in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty dumb trade. But he gets traded to the Toronto Blue Jays after having a phenomenal season in Colorado in 87 games. He was hitting 300, had a 300 average, 471 slugging, 12 home runs, 53 RBIs, 97 hits in total in 87 games. He was healthy. He was playing well. Unfortunately, the team stunk. And from what I can gather, Dustin, is from what I've gathered in past looking back on this, they had informed him like, yeah, there's potential you'll get traded, and he's okay with that. But they promised we're going to keep you involved in the process, however, and that was not the case. As he gets pulled out of the after the ninth inning in a game, and they inform him, yeah, you've been traded to the Blue Jays, and unfortunately, that's where the bridge is burned between Tulowitzki and the Rockies, thanks to Jeff Bridich and unfortunately Dick Monfort as well. Bridge is burned where, yeah, they scorned. And I think a lot of feeling betrayed him. You mentioned earlier with Ubaldo, the same kind of thing happens with Ubaldo, where they just kind of blindside trade him in a not a very clean break.
Yeah, especially when Tulo was your all-star. He is, pretty much the face of your franchise. And to do him like that, where it was, I remember watching the game and having an announcer like, "What?" And who are we getting? They traded him, LaTroy Hawkins, to the Blue Jays for Jose Reyes, Jeff Hoffman, Miguel Castro, and Jesus Tinoco. And we didn't know any of these other than Jose Reyes.
And we knew he was a dirtbag, and
well,
he was a dirtbag in the other sense.
Yes, he did his things, and he was So they pull that trade thinking, we got a replacement shortstop for Tulo, and he used to be really good, and he was just absolutely terrible. So when we do our least favorite Rockies ever, we already have that guy. But then an unproved, minor league prospects of Jeff Hoffman, who the Rockies just never ended up making work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pumped that he was able to find success with the Phillies this year.
And Miguel Castro's had a good career elsewhere.
The flamethrower, and then Jesus Tinoco, that just he got stuck in that limbo of long relief, whatever, do your thing, come back, see ya, we'll bring it back, come back, that kind of thing. So it just complete wash.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think looking at that, and that trade sounds kind of familiar. I'm sure another one hasn't happened in the past several years involving a generational infielder on the left side. But yeah, it's looking back and looking at that history and seeing the repercussions. It's just frustrating. And like we've talked, why would you do this to a player who? No, I think genuinely he liked playing for Colorado.
And Colorado loved him.
Yeah, we loved him.
His fans loved Tulo, the baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
We loved chanting his name, and trying to spell his name. Mm-hmm. Everything about it we loved. And just to get him ripped out, and now with that bad relationship, we don't get to experience Troy Tulowitzki anymore.
Yeah.
We don't see him coming to Coors Field, getting up in the booth and reminiscing.
Yeah.
We don't get that. They absolutely stomped him.
Yeah. And then the 30th anniversary easily could have had, when Cargo came, you could have when Cargo came for his weekend celebration, how easy would it have nice it would have been, Tulo and Cargo come on the same weekend, or something like that, have a chance to celebrate Tulo. And I think that's what hurts too with Rockies fans is it just happened so suddenly and so terribly. like I like how you said it, ripped away from the fans, and then they didn't really get to properly say goodbye. Yeah, he came back, later with the Blue Jays and got the standing ovation and all that stuff. But that's not the same as if it no, even if it was okay, he's gonna leave after he knows this is his last season. No, he gets blindsided. There wasn't like, okay, we're gonna trade you, and people can kind of prepare for that. It's same with the Arenado trade. It just gets ripped away so suddenly, and I think that's what hurts so many fans. And I was looking through research, old articles on Purple Row, at that time from guys like Drew Kreisman and Matt Gross and some other guys. No, really some heartfelt, just some tender articles seeing what that meant to them. That moment and what Tulo meant to them and what he means to so many fans. That time, it just sucks that that relationship's not there. No, the fans want it, and I'm sure he would love to come back just for the fans. But the organization itself and the way they've operated, it's just put that sour taste in his mouth where who knows if if Tulowitzki ever really acknowledges or associates being with the Rockies even more or ever comes back to be involved, which is just sad.
Yeah, especially since that GM is long gone.
Mm-hmm. But the
The
owner
current
remains.
the current GM probably has,
Probably
I
scouted
would
him.
think, yeah, exactly, has a relationship, had a relationship with him, and but the high up top, it's just sad. But he went on to play in Toronto, and
Got another catalyst in that 2015 season for their playoff run. Has a fairly solid year in 2016, healthy for the most part. But, and then
then
injuries again sapped him.
his body just couldn't hold up. And like you said, he in 2019 goes to the Yankees, and hey, this is maybe it's it has the possibility of being a great comeback, wrapping it up story, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah. And that's just the sad part of it. Is it could he's only 34 years old. Like, and you got guys that are under contracts taking them to their age 42 season almost. And it's just the body couldn't hold up. And but man, so many memories and just imposing of what he meant in the Rockies pantheon and just his history and everything. And I think that's something I wanted to touch on. And I mentioned I I think Tulo got a lot of that rap because we just didn't understand who he was as a person when it came to baseball. Like I said, he was all business, nose to the grindstone. Like, this is a job. I'm gonna work. He loves baseball, like lives and breathes baseball. And no, with that comes that desire to win and compete. And no, I think he, like we've seen with a lot of players, were opportunities for the Rockies to build on success that they had, but then just didn't do enough to build around a guy like Tulo, who I'm sure really didn't want to be quote unquote the leader in the clubhouse. He just wanted to be one of the guys helping the team moving forward. Brown didn't want that responsibility all on him, which unfortunately I think is what the Rockies did is, okay, we have Tulo, we have Cargo, you're the guys who are going to lead us. You're in charge. You're our guys instead of there. You're guys. Here's some more help to take some pressure off of them. And fortunately, Rockies didn't do that. Yeah, but I'm sure, like behind the scenes, love to get to know Tulo just like on that personal in that brotherhood. I'm sure you can probably speak to that. Being with the guys in the clubhouse, there's that brotherhood that they fans and stuff probably never see of the relationship of who he was just as an individual. It was always fun to see him kind of goofing up, not so goofing up, but just having a good time on the field. You could tell when he was with his teammates the fun he was having.
Well, anybody that's going to wear a mullet,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
doing, but a guy that pushes others to get better,
hmm
to get at that level, and like I said before, just the example that he set now for the Rockies, not just shortstops, but infielders, because what do we get right after Tulo? We've got Nolan Arenado, Gold Glover, amazing defender, grinder. Uh, Trevor Story wasn't the same caliber, the arm, but offensively, that same capability at shortstop to
Uh-huh.
be a middle of the lineup guy, driving in runs, hitting home runs. And now that we have Ezekiel Tovar, that if he could grow into himself, and I don't think he doesn't have that same size as Tulo, but we already see the defense, the flashes of offense. He's another guy that's 21, 22 years old,
Uh-huh.
and hopefully the Rockies can work and get that same kind of production out of him as they did with Tulo.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And it's just missed. But yeah, you set that standard for not just the Rockies, but teams in general. Because you look at the landscape of shortstops across the league now, or that came up after him. Now your Carlos Correas, there's Francisco Lindor's out there. There's all kinds of guys across the league that fit that Tulowitzki mold of big athletic shortstop that can hit in the middle of your lineup, which is pretty interesting. And some random other stats, Dustin, that I wanted to look up for you because you're asking about the infield pop ups and stuff or infield fly balls. So over on Fangraphs, always a lot of good info over there. But if my page will move, it was particularly in those, I think those all-star years is when it was a little bit more prevalent, so to speak, where I think it was around that 2011, 2012 gets into about a 16% of of his batted balls were infield flies type of thing. That was the peak of it. In his career, it was around 13%. So I think it's a pretty normal part of his game, but not as agree. It always seemed to always come up in the worst moments, I think.
Yes.
Which you can go in and look at his clutch stats. Like, it wasn't that bad actually. Like, he came up big
Yeah.
in most situations, but it sticks in our minds.
Well, I think that's as we talk about former players, those are the memories that either you yourself created and are not backed up by the stats.
Yeah.
I always remember Kurt Manwaring. Oh, I just despised him as a player. And we talk about him like, oh, why did I hate him so much?
Yeah.
And that's the thing for me with Tulo is popping up in clutch situations. But when I look, it's like, oh, maybe I'm overreacting.
Yeah.
But those things that we talk about, Tulo, the chant, the number two, and being the the shortstop that he was.
Yeah.
That's what I'll always remember, and hope that down the road sometime that we get to chant Tulo again at Coors
Yeah.
Field.
Yeah. If like the team ever comes up with a team Hall of Fame, like Tulo is our first choice for me in Rockies history. Top 10 in most categories, offensive categories, until Nolan Arenado came around. The number one fielder in terms of defensive wins above replacement, according to Baseball Reference. Like, he was, those numbers may change with other guys coming up, but he's that gold standard. Like you said, in a lot of things, just all around good player on both sides of the ball. And over on Twitter at the Every Rocky Ever account, asked some people for some other memories, and we got a few. And Sam Bradfield, the managing editor over at purpleroad.com, my boss technically, uh, said my personal favorite memory is when he had "Party in the USA" by Miley Cyrus as his walk-up song. So
Yeah.
that's like what we talked about. Like, he had some humor about him and like a personality. It wasn't just, high and mighty, cocky, jock jerk player, all for myself. Like, he cared about the team and his teammates and like had some fun with it. She said she still thinks of that every time I hear the song. Justin Long says, no, Tulo was a franchise changer. He made every play, made almost every clutch hit, and made the Rockies a dominant defensive team with Jim Tracy and Clint Hurdle. He should be on the Rushmore of Rockies. Watching him compete was always exciting and professional. I wish he had a bigger presence on TV and hearing more from him in Denver, but he was a private person and I respected him for it. Tulo was the man and my favorite Rocky of all time. It's a good one. Unassisted triple play was also mentioned as people's favorites. A lot of others just wishing he had a longer career. Stephen Barr said on the original post, said, my favorite all-time Rocky not named Larry Walker. Fits in. 720 Pedro said, best shortstop behind Freddie Benavidez in Rockies history.
Oh.
Had the GOAT. Dr. Martin Van Nostrand said his 2014 really could have been like the best season for a shortstop ever if he had stayed healthy, like we had mentioned. Like he was on pace. Getting robbed for that Rookie of the Year, the Tulo chant in emoji form. Like you can just read that. Oh, you can't see it on the screen, but right there you can see it and hear it in your head of the thing. Yeah, just people's favorite memory. The memories run deep, and I'm sure like if he saw this from us, like I'm sure he'd care. Like, no, knowing just what he meant to the fans, I think was the biggest one. Is we just it ripped away from us, and we didn't get to say goodbye properly. But always, and it was weird. One thing, it was weird when they gave number 2 to Jonathan Daza, or it was like Alexi Amarista that got it first. Somebody like that. But when his number got reissued, like it was weird. I think around 2017, number 2 finally gets reissued again. You're like, it doesn't feel right. And then Jonathan Daza wears it for a couple years. It's now out of circulation. It's now available, so somebody could take it, make it their own. But I think that was a weird one when his number got reissued.
Yeah, just I just tuck it away and forget that it even exists.
But I'm trying to think of any other moments. I guess the big one people always think of, the misspelled, the infamous, I think King Super's giveaway jersey, the Tulowitzki. They misspell his last name, which to their credit, it's a hard Polish name to spell because there is that T in there and there's a Z. There's some letter, but it's probably one of the more funny things. The Tulowitzki jersey. I think you can go on eBay and find those still.
Oh, jeez.
Just of all the things, and I think everybody had a good laugh about it, but that's just one of those. Your star player, and you misspell his name on the shirt.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Oops.
But he's also star of a couple of Rockies commercials, if you remember. There's the Tulowitzki chant one where he's just going about his day and everything. And he's at his alarm clock is the rhythm. He's at the store and the person typing in on the register, all that stuff. He's going through. There's the one going through the airport security with the gold gloves and the awards.
Yeah.
And caught up, and then Todd Helton has all his coming in. He's like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" Yeah, I think Tulo keeps going back and forth, and then he has to pull out a new one and put it down. Remember the one he gives his truck to Dinger? Dinger's turning 16. It was Dinger's 16th birthday. And they're like, come on, Tulo, like he's 16 years old now. He's old enough. You can trust him. You just got to trust him. And so he hands the keys to his truck to Dinger. Runs out, and all the other Denver mascots are out there in the truck.
Aren't they doing like donuts or something? Or is it just...
They might have been, or they're just ready to go and hang out in his truck and go mess around. That's a pretty good one. It's like there's those brief glimpses we get to see of Tulo like more than just the serious business baseball player, but having some fun in that clubhouse. But that's what it sums up to: is competitive guy, just couldn't stay healthy and probably didn't get as much opportunity and support in Colorado as perhaps like ownership and things could have provided to him and a bunch of other players that he played with. I think that big quote I think a lot of people point to is, I think he mentioned something that he didn't want to be like Todd Helton in terms of just not getting as more opportunities to win and play in the postseason and things like that, which can't really blame him for that.
Yeah, and we didn't mention his playoff stats
Yeah.
weren't that good for the
Yeah.
Rockies. So
And it's like small sample size for a
yeah,
lot
very
of Rockies. So it's hard to.
small. But he's still involved in baseball now, working with the University of Texas, with the Longhorns, and involved in baseball. And my closing thoughts: I hope that bridge can be rebuilt with the Rockies and Tulowitzki, and so that we can have maybe closure,
Mhm.
and he knows how much he meant to young baseball players of our generations, and the the ripple and effect that he had in Colorado baseball,
Mhm.
the players, high school players, kids, just the state of Colorado, and what could have been.
Yeah.
And like you guys said, he's up there in the top Rockies of all time. Tulowitzki's up there.
Yeah. And I think which prospect? I think it's Sterling Thompson played under Tulowitzki with the Longhorns. Or it was Jordan Beck, one of the two. No, Jordan Beck was the Vols in Tennessee. So I think it was Sterling Thompson playing for the Longhorns. Colorado roots for him, and oh, who was his favorite player growing up? Oh, Troy Tulowitzki. And who just happens to be an assistant coach when he gets to college and or moves to play for the Longhorns? His childhood hero. And so getting to play under him, and then the Rockies draft him, it's cool interconnected things. And it's, I think now he works as a operations for the Longhorns. They're in Texas, still involved with the baseball doing that. But yeah, Dustin, I think just the impact he had, not just on the team or baseball in general, but the kids of Colorado, playing baseball. I remember when I would play shortstop in high school. Who did I look to for defensive emulation? Oh, Troy Tulowitzki. How does he set up? What's his movement setting up for a pitch? How does he move when he's playing shortstop? I tried to emulate that. And like I mentioned before, how does he hit? How can I emulate how he hits? Okay, this is what he does. I'll try that out in this more upright stance type of thing. And you could ask any kid growing up playing baseball in Colorado during that time from 2007 to 2015, who did they look to at shortstop or to learn how to play the game, play infield, play defense? Troy Tulowitzki. And it's going to take a Hall of Fame, a Colorado Hall of Fame, like Rockies Hall of Fame at the stadium to celebrate these guys. And hopefully, you got Bill Schmidt probably help draft him. You got Clint Hurdle still in the front office. Cargo's still good relations with the Rockies. Spilly. So hopefully one day those wounds can be healed and gets me and tell him Jeff Bridich is gone. It's okay. You can come back, Tulo. It's okay.
Him and Ubaldo can shake hands.
Yes. At least that was in a spring training game. So
yeah.
But then we did Ubaldo dirty in 2020. But whatever. We'll get to Ubaldo another time. But yeah, fun player. A lot of people's favorites, and when you think of the pantheon or like Rockies Mount Rushmore, the pantheon of Rockies, we haven't done this with a lot of these guys, but where would you rank Tulo all time for you personally of where he ranks all time Rockies?
If we're talking shortstop, he's the number one shortstop.
Yeah.
And in that, all time Rockies, he's in the top 10, I would think. For me, he has to be in the top 10. I've got Todd number one, Larry Walker, a couple other guys. So I'd probably put him in a 5-6 spot.
Yeah. That's about where I would think, yeah. Just in terms of overall production, what he meant to the team, and just when we think of elite players like Rockies stars, Tulowitzki's up there. And just fortunately couldn't get more of him, which is sad, but at least we got what we did from him, which is awesome. But I think that's going to do it here for this a little bit longer episode, hour long, but Tulo's worth it. He's one of those guys that deserve one. We didn't have to, it wasn't pulling teeth trying to get information on him.
Well, that's what we like is, those personal memories is what it's all about. And, those listening or watching, send us your comments of any other memories that popped up about Tulo and the impact that he had maybe on you personally. And, Skylar, I think it's Christmas break and we're trying to get some more free time and come up with some more of our episodes of Every Rocky Ever. And hopefully once baseball comes back around, I'll start kicking around more baseball content and following your footsteps.
Yeah, and we always appreciate folks tuning in and turn out. And one real quick memory that I remembered, we went to a Rockies game in high school once, like my journalism class, and we were out in left field and we took a big long poster strip. They took a big long paper poster and just put "Fear the Mullet" on it. So this must have been 2010 or 2011 that we went. It was near the end of that 2010 season, I think. "Fear the Mullet" poster, and we're all standing out there in left field holding it up. We went and tried to get on the post-game show up there holding it up. Good stuff. I don't think Tulo acknowledged it, but that's okay. But that'll do it here for this edition of Every Rocky Ever. Always appreciate you tuning in. You can follow the account over at Every Rocky Ever, ROCKIE, over on Twitter for however long that's sticking around until it's run into the ground. You can also follow at Rocky Mountain Rooftop, ROCKYMTN Rooftop, over on Twitter. We'll work on getting some on the other sites as well. And then you can follow me at sideline_crowd. And you can follow Dustin if you want at Mr. T Spanish. Lots of sites to go check out. Always find us over at purplerow.com as well, myself, or writing for Fans First Sports Network.com. So plenty of places you can find this podcast on your favorite platforms. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, share it with your friends, comment below, set notifications, all that good jazz. And to help support the show, leave a review on the podcast platforms of your choice. Goes to really help the show grow. So we keep trying to make this thing bigger and better to cover Every Rocky Ever. I think I got it all, Dustin.
Sounds good. Well, should we hit him with one last?
All right, here we go. Yes.
Too low?
Oh.